radiant diamond bursting inside us. We cannot contain. Your love will surely come find us like blazing wildfire, singing your name. God of mercy, sweet love of mine, I have surrendered to your design. May this offering stretch across the sky. These hallelujah be multiplied. Your love is like radiant diamond, Lord, bursting inside us. We cannot contain. Your love will surely come find us like blazing wildfire, singing your name. Sweet love of mine, I have surrendered to your design. May this offering stretch across the sky. These hallelujah be more. Father, we welcome you this morning, Lord. Our prayer this morning, Lord, is that this offering would flow up to you, Lord, to your ears this morning, Lord. That you would hear our hearts and our prayers. Lord, you know our needs even before we can speak them, Lord. You know them. We give you this morning to you, Lord. This offering of praise to you, Lord. Let it stretch across the sky, Lord. Hallelujah. Oh, God of mercy, sweet love of mine, I have surrendered to your delight. May this offering stretch across the sky. These hallelujah be multiplied. This hallelujah, one more time, be multiplied. These hallelujah be multiplied. It is always such a great privilege, you guys, to be here and to get up and share, and this is such a wonderful day and such a wonderful nation that we live in, as Kevin said. And, it's funny, you could definitely, as you get out there on Tuesday and doing, hot dogs, listen, if you're doing hot dogs, it's time to up your game, okay? Do something raw, okay? Brats, the standard would be a guy kills his meal, whatever, brings it home, cleans it, and cooks it that day. That's the standard, Alex. Brats would, be hot dogs. So anyway, you need to get that out, Tri-tip would be, anyway. But as we're out there enjoying, such a wonderful day with relatives and family and stuff like that, and celebrating this day, it's one of these things where posterity can show. When you look back, you could see this country just on this glide path from the Puritans and the people that were fleeing the Catholic Church and everything in Europe, going over to the States, New World, starting something. It was sort of this linear progression up to the place where we are now. But part of my goal this morning is to really show you that that is simply not the case. I mean, it is far from it. It's actually a miracle that we're here, at least in this form, at least the way the country is today. It was never a done deal. It's never a foregone conclusion. In reading, and by the way, this is going to be my text for today, and I will be reading from here. I'm just going to try to utilize some of the text to really illustrate just the nature of how absurd the proposition was to beat the vaunted British. Okay, so that'll be this, and I hope to really convey that, and then there'll be a pivot later that will be kind of key for us. But what's interesting is, there probably would have been some break from the British, right, at some point, because, it's only so long you can be under the thumb. And as other, colonies would ultimately gain independence, America probably would have done that too, but it would have been something along the lines of, frankly, South Africa. We ended up with a parliamentary government similar to the British, but instead, here, owing to circumstances, they elected to go with revolution as opposed to evolution. We end up with a uniquely distinct American republic, a nation unlike anything in history. First nation to have negative liberties as laid out in the Bill of Rights. When you hear that term, it's kind of, you think, what is that? It's basically that all those amendments are laws saying the government shall not infringe on this or that, which has never been done. It's always what you can and can't do, but it's never negative against the government. It's never telling the government what they can't do. So that's why I say unlike any other nation. And I could go on. I think maybe years ago I did a thing on, the sort of natural rights history of our country. But there were a lot of people in our midst in the colonies that were studying that stuff. And I was talking to Rhonda the other day. She's going to get this on tape. Thank you, Rhonda. We were talking about it, and she said that Madison, when he was putting the Constitution together, asked Jefferson, who I believe was in France at the time, and he just said, "Hey, can you get me all the books that you have on failed governments?" It's pretty amazing. Get me everything you have on the countries that did make it, And first one would probably be Rome. As soon as they abolished the Senate and they went with the dictatorial Caesar, it was, curtains. And then another quote just about, the essence of our country is William Rehnquist, who was our Chief Justice, Supreme Court Justice a few years back. He said, "Every time I read the founding documents, I'm convinced they are divinely inspired." And if you look at the Federalist Papers, there's so much of that embedded in our country. It's just amazing. So my theme today, for those of you who are taking notes, and for those of you in Guam today, listening to the sermon, this is for you too. It is Live Free or Die. That is going to be the title of our sermon today. And that is what the guys like Washington, all the founders did, is they had a lot to lay on the line. So live free or die. It's amazing to think about it. Kevin actually kind of touched on it. How does someone get there? Especially men of significance. They had a lot to lose. Washington, very successful, one of the wealthiest planters, somewhat by marriage. He definitely married up. He had a great life. He participated in the French and Indian Wars back in 1760. He had his fill. He had his fill. And in fact, it didn't go very well. It was his first time being in command, and it didn't really work out well for him. But he decided to retire, age of 27, go to Mount Vernon and start to develop that into the amazing place that it is. Put your hand if you've been to Mount Vernon. It's awesome. For the stature of that place back in that time, it was pretty amazing. So he was one of them. I mean, you got Jefferson, Franklin, Adams. They all had everything to lose. It wasn't like this thing of privilege, like, you know what, I think it's time. We're going to establish a country, and we just need to do this. It was definitely not. And just to give you a little bit of background, and Ryan did say I have control on this, so I just hit the right button, Ryan? Okay. So who's this? King George. So the situation, this is just a little bit of history, a little bit of background. I'm really trying to get this concise, because I know I go way long sometimes. But so untenable, what is the word? Taxed by the Parliament of Great Britain, a body of which they had no representation. Stamp Act. You guys have all seen this in U.S. history. You just memorize these things. But Stamp Act, terrible. Every official document, every piece of paper had to have the stamp on it. They were charged for it. That was repealed. The Townsend Act, colonists rising up, troops sent in. Boston Massacre happens. Boston Tea Party. They closed the Boston Harbor, effectively rescinding Massachusetts governing authority. And all the other colonies rallied to their cause. So all of these things are getting worse and worse, and all the other colonies kind of rallied to Massachusetts. And one of the people largely responsible for that is this guy up here, King George III. This is what he actually said. So there were many tipping points, and as I share, you're going to see that, it was hard to get people on board. A lot of loyalists. It wasn't like, oh, Spirit of 76, here we go. Let's put on the red, white, and blue team jersey and let's go get these Brits. It wasn't like that. They had to convince a lot of people, but this was one of the turning points. And I want you to listen to the tenor and the tone of what he says here. And I'll try to do my best, King George. When the unhappy and deluded multitude, against whom this force will be directed, the force meaning his armies, shall become sensible of their error, shall be ready to receive the misled with tenderness and mercy, he pledged, shall be ready to receive the misled with I shall be ready to receive the misled with tenderness and mercy, he pledged, and it's evidence of his good intentions. He would give authority to certain persons to grant pardons on the spot in America. When he wrote this, it was a change. It was a change in posture. And this is a little side note. How many have seen, Lin-Manuel Miranda? Yes, Hamilton. Do you know that when he was on vacation in 2013, 2014, he just happened to be in a library or a store or something, and he picked up the copy of Ron Chernow's Hamilton. It could have been Truman. It could have been anybody. But he picks up Hamilton and then reads Hamilton's story and then comes up with a thing. So you guys are familiar with... So if let's say that the passage I just read was the Old English, this would be the Message version. You ready? This is the Message version. You say, the price of my love is not a price that you're willing to pay. You cry, in your tea which you hurl in the sea, when you see me go by. Why so sad? Remember we made an arrangement when you went away. Now you're making me mad. Remember, despite our estrangement, I'm your man, but you'll be back. Soon you'll see. You remember you belong to me. You'll be back. Time will tell. You remember. Oceans rise, empires fall. We have seen each other through it all. See, he thought he was being generous. He thought he was being generous to them. But when push comes to shove, I will send a fully armed battalion to remind you of my love. And that's what in the form of 400 British ships in Boston Harbor, he sent his love. So in essence, you've got this estrangement going on between the royal house and the colonies. And it started out with a couple skirmishes, Bunker Hill, etc. At that point, they were just sort of defending their homeland, their honor, But it then morphed into essentially a desire to have full separation from the mother country. So that's where things started going. Patrick Henry is the one that really came up with live free or die, but the way he said it was thus: is life so dear or peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God. I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death. Live free or die. So, the picture I'm painting you is one of desperation. Oh, okay. Oh, that's the okay. I'm skipping along. So picture yourself. Okay, great. we're gonna do this. And then they see, all this coming into the harbor. I mean, can you imagine? You've got carpenters, and I'm going to read some of the stuff here. You got people that are pastors. You got tradesmen that are not skilled. They're amateurs. Maybe they know how to operate a musket or something to go hunt their kill, but definitely not to preserve their life. So definitely a lopsided match. No way we win. Again, I'll read just a quick little note here on that. So if it ever came to a fight, the American Army had scarcely any artillery and almost no gunpowder. We're talking early 76. This whole book and the whole premise is about 76. They had already done Bunker Hill and all that last year. Yet to Greene, who is Nathaniel Greene, one of Washington's closest guys, the greater weakness and worry was the continuing disorderly state of the Army itself. As he wrote to his friend Samuel Ward at the Continental Congress, the prospect was deeply disturbing when you consider how raw and undisciplined the troops are in general and what warlike preparations are going on in England. You can imagine all the strategy is going on a professional level, and we're just trying to get guys together over here. In terms of who the Army consisted of, the great majority were farmers, skilled artisans, shoemakers, saddlers, carpenters, wheelwrights, blacksmiths, coopers. I don't know what a cooper is. You know what a cooper is? That's what? Make barrels. Thanks. That's good. Tailors, and ship chandlers. Don't know what chandler is, but okay. It was an army of men. This is the thing, though. It was an army of men accustomed to hard work being the common lot. They were familiar with adversity, making do in a harsh climate, and that would serve them well through all the episodes that would be forthcoming. One thing of note is when Washington was a master at the retreat, and that is something that is, not necessarily valued, but it's not put up there in lights. Who wants to do it? But he was a master at it. And so one of the things that the British noted is that when we did retreat, they would come upon all the fortifications and all the things that were done, and they were amazed. Like, how could they do this? So I think that in a way they started to realize who they were up against in terms of the perseverance and just the spirit that the Americans had. Ragtag of militia and colonial troops. So you figure all, picking troops from all the different colonies, holding them together with enlistments, expiring proved to be the toughest task. Honestly, that was Washington's deal. I'm going to pay you $10 a month, and your term is up in December. I really hope that you stay with us. I mean, of course, you're going to get your head blown off. That's one thing, and you're not really making a ton of money, but. That was one of the hardest things that he had to do, but he was up to the task. Although, and this was posted in the New England Chronicle during that time when they were having issues with keeping soldiers on hand. He says, although your private concerns may call for your assistance at home, they've all left their families, yet the voice of your country is still louder. And it is painful to heroic minds to quit the field when liberty calls, and the voice of injured millions cries, to arms, to arms. Never was a cause more important or glorious than that which you are engaged in. Not only your wives, your children, and distant posterity, but humanity at large, the world of mankind, are interested in it. They had no idea that we would become America. And here they are talking about humanity. They're talking about the world, about what they do to stay put in Washington's army. For if tyranny should prevail in this great country, we may expect liberty will expire throughout the world. Therefore, more human glory and happiness may depend upon your exertions than ever yet depended on any of the sons of men. He that is a soldier in defense of such a cause needs no title. His post is a post of honor, and although not an emperor, yet he shall wear a crown of glory, and blessed will be his memory. It's amazing. Washington would later add, when he saw the Brits coming ashore with all the boats, he said, the hour is fast approaching on which honor and success of this army and safety of our bleeding country depend. Remember, officers and soldiers, that you are the free man, fighting for the blessings of liberty, that slavery will be your portion, and that of your posterity, if you do not acquit yourselves like men. So, just giving you the background there, trying to keep, soldiers, trying to train them up, trying to do what needs to be done. Then, the declaration is signed. So we are now at war. Okay, so. Obviously, that was a big deal because now they're pledging their lives in sacred honor. To some people, though, it's just a piece of paper because it's got to be backed up by something, and we didn't have really anything to back it up. We didn't have the force, just our armada. We didn't have a navy. We didn't have anything. It says the declaration itself, being no more than a declaration without military success against the most formidable force on earth, John Dickinson of Pennsylvania, an eminent member of Congress who opposed the declaration, had called it a skiff made of paper. And as Greene had warned, there were never any certainties about the fate of war. But from this point on, the citizen soldiers of Washington's army were no longer to be fighting for the defense of their country or for their rightful liberties as freeborn Englishmen, as they had at Lexington and Concord and Bunker Hill. It was now a proudly proclaimed all-out war for an independent America, a new America, and thus a new day of freedom. So that's happening. And so that spurred them on. And I'm going to skip some of this. I want to make sure I get to this. But the British exert their power. They win battles. Patriots lose the Battle of Long Island, which was one of the strongholds that they had. Washington retreats to Manhattan. And this is one of the things I wanted to point out. Because there was so much hubris in Britain and with the British leaders, because they thought, we're professionals. We have the... once you bring all these soldiers on shore, they have this thing. Basically, you know what? It's a gentlemanly way. We're going to take the winter off. We're gonna quit in November. We'll come back in spring. We'll come back in May. So they put the pause button, and this is when Washington's in retreat, and I mean he's down to 3,500 men under his command, and they could have ended this in 1776. That's what's so crazy here, guys. Is if they had just done it instead, there's some tea back home and going to go back to the homeland. And so General Howe and what's the other guy? One of the two major generals. Oh gosh, I don't have it written down. Anyway, they all left, and so Washington used it as an opportunity, basically, to go retake Trenton, and. Just that little bit of good news. It wasn't even a massive victory. He took about 600 men prisoner. Wasn't even a big victory. But to the Americans and to enlisted men and to recruitment, it was everything. Author says, if Washington was born today, in fact, he didn't say this. I'm saying this. It would be all over Twitter, all over Instagram, greatest general ever, Schwarzkopf-esque plus. Just the greatest, But he knew he was a smart, wise guy. He had scouts, he had intel, he paid for spies. So he utilized that to regroup and launch counterattacks. Still dealing with loyalists, especially in New York and pockets. And then there was this. Right, there we go. Thomas Paine. Thomas Paine. You guys have heard of Thomas Paine. He got the virus. He got the fever, and he saw what was going on. He was inspired. He was actually a staffer on Nathaniel Greene's, with Greene. And so he's seeing firsthand. He's probably seeing Washington, too, operate. And so he says this. He says, see, I think I have it here. Do I have it up there? These are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will, in this crisis, shrink from the service of his country, but he that stands it now deserves the love and thanks of man and woman. It's easy when you're on the side. Roosevelt's famous arena speech. When you're not in the arena, you can chirp and you can criticize all these things, but this is the moment to pledge. So he posted that in Common Sense, which at the time was the most widely read newspaper out there. Instant morale boost. Colonists everywhere could understand what he was trying to say. And again, at several points, as I pointed out, the war was just seemingly lost. But the greatness of Washington is there, you guys. And years back, we did a book club, and we read, it was actually Chernow's book on Washington. And you realize that, we can take for granted that we just had people in place, but he really was the indispensable man. I mean, his experiences, he had not led troops like this, but he learns from his experiences, and you can see. So painting the picture still, Congress had fled. The Brits were coming in. Congress had fled. Former members Joseph Galloway, Andrew Allen, had gone over to the enemy. Defections. When they're looking and they're picturing, oh, this is going to be bad, I'm going to be hanged, they go over. By all reasonable signs, the war was over, and Americans had lost. This is like, August, September of 1776. Out of adversity, he seemed to draw greater energy and determination. His Excellency, George Washington, wrote Green later, never appeared to so much advantage as in the hour of distress. Can you imagine having your leader be that kind of man? And he did this. He would take his horse and run the lines. And I mean, he's a big old target, dressed as fine as can be, always wanted to be that way, to be the model. Just amazing. I hope you guys are getting the spirit of what I'm saying here. So all this happens. Campaign of 1776 ends because, the Brits want to take a break, go have tea back at home, tea and scones. It ends with the campaign of 76 had ended with a second astonishing victory. Washington been born in the days of idolatry. I mentioned that. Okay. Above all, Washington never forgot what was at stake, and he never gave up. Again and again, in the letters to Congress and to his officers and in his general orders, he had called for perseverance. Listen to this. These are in his letters. For perseverance and spirit, for patience and perseverance, for unremitting courage and perseverance. It's biblical. Soon after the victories in Trenton and Princeton, he had written, a people unused to restraint must be led. For all of you business leaders out there, this is a key principle. He said, a people unused to restraint must be led. They will not be drove, or in our common term, not driven. They must be led. Without Washington's leadership and unrelenting perseverance, the revolution almost certainly would have failed. As Nathanael Greene foresaw as the war went on, he will be the deliverer of his own country. Most troops lasted 6 months, maybe a year. Some went, maybe 2. This is 1776. The war ends in 83. That's 7 years that Washington was at the helm. All the while, I want to point this out, he was thinking about Mount Vernon. He was sending letters over to talk about where to place the chimney and how to renovate this and renovate that with explicit detail while he's managing, this American army. Capacity, I guess they didn't have TV at night. They could study. So anyway, that's what I wanted to share with you about the country, about our nation. Just this live free or die ethos that really permeated. One quality that I picked up that the author talks about several times, he talks about Washington saw things as they were, not as he wished. I think a lot of times we look at things and, I'm an optimist. I sometimes see things as I wish they were. But, it's good to have a leader like that who shows up and immediately can see that his troops are not ready or need to be refined or trained or whatever. So pivoting somewhat, you guys, on this July 4th celebration, so to speak, as I was noodling on this, just that line, live free or die, I started turning inward, thinking about my own walk with the Lord, my own, what does that mean for me? What does live free or die mean? And reading about this burgeoning nation, men and women at their desperate end for liberty. But how does that come down to the micro, to my own walk? What does it mean in the context of my relationship with the Lord? I see it. I want to live free. Am I free? Is the kingdom of God in my life expanding or shrinking? Is there something that is unduly burdening me that I'm not acknowledging or confronting? Are there relationships not optimal because I'm the one holding back? What is that? And so after some reflection, and it actually came to me somewhat quickly, there's a couple of things. When you do Apple Playlist, you put in a song, then it does autoplay. The Lord was speaking to me through these songs. I kid you not. And I'll mention, which songs and what happened there. But also, I feel like there's a real tie-in here with what Matt and Kevin were talking about. Kevin was talking about the narrow road and the freedom that exists between these two lines. And then Matt was talking about the prodigals coming home. And I thought about that in terms of, what are we going to do when they come home? How are we going to respond? So that's going to come in a little bit. So first, the narrow road. And I don't know if I have this up there. Let's see here. Oops. The narrow road. Who's in the narrow road? God. And he's very clear on what he wants for us. And John, you wrote this on the Bible app. So I need a copyright, I need to pay, need a license. Walk in his ways, choose life, love the Lord, obey his voice, hold fast to him. These are all good for us. These are good. Everything on the outside of these lines is slavery and death. Everything inside the lines is freedom for us, profitable for us, nourishes us. It's his heart for us. 2 Corinthians 3:17. Now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, hello? Freedom or liberty. Live free or die. There's freedom and liberty in those lines. Second, the word for forgiveness, which also came out of what Matt was talking about. The prodigals are indeed coming home. What are we to do? What kind of posture do we have? It's time to forgive like this. What I'm about to give you a couple of examples. One is obviously the way that the prodigal father did it, where he's like, okay, get the fattened calf, get the best stuff we have. Not an ounce of him keeping a record of wrong. He just went straight to the son. The next one I'm going to share with you is out of Genesis 32. Let's see here. Oops. Okay. You can't see that. Okay. That's the second part. The first part is, and the messengers returned. This is out of Genesis 32. And the messengers turned to Jacob, saying, we came to your brother Esau, and he is coming to meet you. And there are, some translations say, but there are 400 men with him. Then Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed. He divided the people who were with him and the flocks and the herds and the camels into two camps. In Genesis 33, skip down to 33, and you guys have this. But Esau ran to meet him and embraced him and fell on his neck and kissed him, and they wept. And when Esau lifted up his eyes and saw the women and children, he said, who are these with you? Jacob said, the children whom God has graciously given your servant. Then the servants drew near, they and their children, and bowed down. Leah likewise and her children drew near and bowed down. At last, Joseph and Rachel drew near, and they bowed down. Esau said, what do you mean by all this company that I met? Jacob answered, to find favor in the sight of my Lord. Jacob said, no, please, if I have found favor in your sight, then accept my present from my hand. And this is the key. For I have seen your face, which is like seeing the face of God, and you have accepted me. When we enter into a place where we ask for forgiveness, can people see it on our faces? Can they see it? Like, is it there? Because guess what? Proverbs 27:19 says, just as water mirrors your face, so your face mirrors your heart. If our face shows it, that means the work's been done. We have dealt with God. We have, cleared the deck. It is out. Is that gone? Has the manifestation of that offense gone? Has it left us? What a model. And I was working through something relatively similar in my life recently. And this song popped up a few times on my auto playlist as I was saying. And the Lord was like, hello. Second time I put the song on. And it's the Tim McGraw song. And it's Live Like You Were Dying. Live like you were dying. Live free or die. So the song is about a guy that finds out he has cancer. So he's going to do all these things. I'm going to go 2.7 seconds on a bull named Fu Manchu. And, I'm going to do all these things. And so anyway, hold on one second, back up. So perfect song for me to hear. The song could be termed, Live Like You Know You're a Sinner. Dead in your trespasses. That's how we should do it, right? We take a song like that. That's how we should be thinking about it. So he went skydiving, Rocky Mountain climbing, the bull, and he gave forgiveness. He's been denying. He's like, I gave forgiveness. I've been denying. And I don't know what I was doing. Probably doing something on the property, and I heard that. I'm like, oh man, okay. You've been the one holding on. Without going into personal detail, I was the one holding on to pride. And then guess what song came on? Stubborn Pride. I'm not kidding. That stubborn pride laid on the floor. Burned every bridge I knew before. And then I hearkened back to another song that really hit me, in case those didn't. We do a song that we're probably going to do here at the end, but it's called Amazing. And one of the lines is, forgiveness runs so deep within a heart of loving kindness. I'm not being loving, I'm not being kind. But should a soul forget that, the cross of Christ reminds us every day. That is the ultimate example of forgiveness. Freely I received, now freely to give. If we know who we are, if we know that, and again, this happens when we're face down. This happens when we see God's face and pray and humble ourselves. We know that we see this. We see that we're wretches, saved, rescued, and redeemed by a loving God. And what ought be our response? It should be this. It should be this forgiveness. It is the burden lifter, the freedom-seeking, heat-seeking missile. That is the best thing ever. There is so much psychology around that, too, about, burden lifted. Lastly, perfect timing. I am inspired and encouraged more than ever to pray for this country and for our leaders in power, no matter who's in. 2 Chronicles, I left out the verse, but 4:17 maybe. 7:14, thank you. 4:17, that's dyslexic. If my people who are called by my name, who are those people who are called by his name? Us. Humble themselves. Is he humbling us, or are we humbling ourselves? We're humbling ourselves. And pray fervently and seek my face. Right? Seeking his face is different from just a prayer session from 8 to 9. It's seeking his face. And turn from their wicked ways. Who? Us. It's us. Then I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and heal their land. We are the ones responsible for this country. It's not going to be anybody else. We are the ones that he has given us. We're the remnant, if it is a remnant or whatever. We are the ones that he has elected or, commissioned for us to do this. As Derek Prince said, the fourth step, turn from their wicked ways. Who? The alcoholic, the young people that won't go to church? No, it's the Christian. It's God's people. The hindrance to revival is inside the church, not outside. It has never been outside. It starts here. Amen.
gracious and compassionate, slow to anger and rich in love. The Lord is gracious and compassionate, slow to anger and rich in love. And the Lord is good to all, and He has compassion on all that He has made. As far as the east is from the west, that's how far He has removed our transgressions from us. As far as the east is from the west, that's how far He has removed our transgressions from us. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord, oh my soul. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord, oh my soul. Praise the Lord. The Lord is gracious and compassionate, slow to anger. Slow to anger and rich in love. The Lord is gracious and compassionate, slow to anger and rich in love. And the Lord is good to all, and He has compassion on all that He has made. As far as the east is from